Alright, for this project, I made all my own assets. So I modeled this for the game. I also use an add-on to rig it with Unreal's rig. So this is all hand rigged by me with the plugin and then ported into Unreal. It's gonna be a little hard to show things off because I'm only one person, unfortunately. But this is what I've been working on all semester. So yeah, brief overview. You can attack, you can hit the other player, and you can parry. So you parry by holding F and then clicking, and then it'll bring up some sparks. I'll edit some values later so I can show that off. So for parries, if you M1, I slowed it down to show because I have no one to test with at the moment. But basically, you swing, and then it does that, plays a little animation on the other end, cancels the damage, and it puts you in stun for a minute. So a large majority of my work was in my third-person blueprint. I had it organized for a while, but I got a little off over here when I was trying to work on another thing that I'll show later, but I never quite finished. Most of this works through RPCs, remote procedure calls. Essentially, you call from the client to the server, and then from the server, you replicate to all clients. And that's how most of my replication works. I have things set up for everything individually, pretty much. My framework is a little messy because I was still trying to learn how everything worked. Essentially, I've got my health set up with just the basic, like, any damage event that's native to Unreal. My hit detection works with overlaps. So I have a box here for parries, which is how I detect parries. Essentially, if the person is overlapping with this, then it detects a parry. If the person is overlapping with this box, then it detects a hit. I used that detection with tags, so it checks if it has hitbox or parry box or whatever, and then it goes into it. If you're hit and you're not blocking, parry window, whatever, deals hit stun is a function I made, which essentially is just like sets a stunned variable, and then it checks the stunned variable, and that's about it. Parries are a little confusing. I had to treat them as an actual attack because all my stuff works on overlap. So it's all happening from the player that's hit, not from the player that hit them, which was pretty difficult to work around because instead of just saying, when I parry an enemy, have them get stunned, it's more like when I get parried, I have to take the stun myself, which doesn't sound that different, but it affects the logic a lot, and it's quite difficult to work around. Most of my stuff is just attached to booleans, like blocking is a boolean, and all that. And then pretty much everything checks, like, where's my attack? Yeah, so on my attack, it checks if you're blocking. If you're blocking, then it'll do a parry. If it doesn't, then it'll do your attack. There's another thing that I was working on but never quite got to finish, and that is my directional attack system. And I made this wheel for it. I made the animations for it, but unfortunately I was never able to actually get it working because I couldn't get replication working on it properly, and I also didn't have time to make the animations for the rest of it. So this part was very difficult. I used some tutorials to try and figure out the math for it, but the math is quite complex. Let me pull it up. So in here we have my widget for the heavy wheel. Got the graph here. Essentially this is just this is math for the bounds. So like when you open it up and you move your mouse around, this is calculating like where to count the variable based on where your mouse is in the scene. This is the actual wheel material. A lot of this math I did not do myself because it's all very complicated and I don't understand a lot of it, to be honest. But I took a YouTube video about how to make a weapon selection wheel, like something similar to GTA 5, where you like hold down a button and then you select a weapon. But I took that concept and I transferred it into my heavy weapon system. Really all that's left to do is just to get it replicating, and once it's replicating it should work just fine. I'll just have to make a heavy hit function, and then that'll be about all. But essentially, it calculates the sections, the rotations, and does a bunch of weird circle and pi math, all that good stuff. And my animation blueprint is where a lot of my work was. So I did this kind of lazily, if I'm being honest. Basically, it just sets a bunch of variables here that attaches, pretty much this is just attaching the variables from the character blueprint to the animation blueprint. Then my animation graph, got all these. All my animations are handmade. I made them all in Engine with Unreal Engine's editor. I don't really think I have time in this video to show that, so we're not going to, but I've got essentially all my things here. These are unused because these were going to be the playing for like when you actually swing the heavy attack for the other thing, but I hadn't had that implemented yet. And essentially, how these work is it takes the basic Unreal Engine walk system, and like take this for example, it does a layered blend per bone. It stops it at the spine here, and then that only plays my animations that I made on the top half of the rig. It lets Unreal play the bottom half of the rig, which is just the default walking animation. But that's how I got all of my stuff to sync like this, and how all of this is working well. It works with this too, but it doesn't swing yet. That's how I got all my animations working. It's all pretty much the same stuff. It checks the variables. This one was kind of complex because it's checking the swing variable, because I mirror it as well with an animation table. My M1s, I didn't make two, they were just mirrored. But yeah, that's pretty much it.